Hey, it's up. And of course, I don't have my version of chat running yet. Good. No chat for you, mister. Ooh. In a bar in Europe, that would mean totally different things. If you were to chat someone up, that would mean to talk to a girl in a way to get her excited. Right, no, I get that, I get it. Wow, interesting. I didn't notice that was doing that these days. So now the YouTube Studio app launches when I want to go and view chat, where I used to just do it through the website. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, well, that's weird. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and say 10 seconds because 10. I'm giving you a 10. 10 for 5, 5 off, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Hey.
What's going on? Not Your Average Show. We are back at our normal time for a day.
A day. You know, a day.
A day because, yes, we know we're throwing you all off, and the last couple of weeks have been really, really strange, but that's because other things had to get done besides the show. However, the show has still been going very strong. The view numbers look fantastic. The sub numbers are great. We couldn't be more enamored with the fact that the show continues to grow at a great rate, which is awesome. So we find the time to put in to do the show. And hi, Corey, what's going on, bro? How are you?
Hey, man. What's up? What's up? Hey, YouTube.
So we can celebrate. We're now at 193 subscribers. So that is 5 more than the last time I think we spoke, which is fantastic.
Oh my!
And yeah, things are still moving along, and people, I guess, are mostly happy. So, and yesterday I went out and just set up 2 cameras to go ahead and record some stuff, and I figured, well, I might as well bring a laptop with me and record it to the laptop as well, because I was recording it to the video cards of those 2 cameras anyhow, just to have some more launch footage, and that was fun. So yeah, if you had a chance to just watch that, it's just plain old launch footage. I did my best because I wasn't really trying to follow the rocket, but I was really trying to follow. Yeah, you know. What's going on with you, man?
Not much, man. Yeah, so yeah, thanks to Mike for getting out to the coast and doing some video stuff yesterday. I was busy, just couldn't get out there. And yeah, but he got some stuff, so yeah, check it out.
Yep.
Other than that, yeah, today I got some time to do a day show, so hey, we're doing a day show.
There you go.
And yeah, we're back. So we got I know Mike's gonna talk about do the intros, but yeah, we got some cool stuff.
Okay, yeah,
a little bit more sciencey stuff we'll get to, which is fun.
Well, the first part is science, yeah. Right? The first part is definitely science, because we're going to talk about how close you. Hey, James Peckles, what's going on, sir? I don't know for fully on back to afternoons. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in there, but we do have some scientific stuff to talk about, I guess. We're going to talk about how close.
I mean, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how close can you actually be to a rocket launch before you can't survive?
And why? And you know.
Yeah, and why? Because this was all brought on by finding one video that I had never seen before on YouTube, which is actually the water system that is used by NASA at 39. I think this is 39A.
It's B.
I got that one wrong. There you go, 39B. Okay, I had a 50-50 on this one, and I got it wrong.
Of course, yeah.
And so by basically looking at this video, you get a chance to see how much actual water is dumped on a site to actually suppress the heat, but it's actually there for noise suppression. So we're going to talk about that. We also have to talk about the Unreal Engine 5. A buddy of mine, Todd Winter, who I did my 3D computer animation degree with. And when we used to work in video games together, he sent me a video of how the Unreal Engine has progressed. And out of all the gaming engines that I've ever seen, this one is literally unreal. There's so much to talk about in there that is good for gamers, good for 3D artists, so on and so forth. That's fantastic. And then we got new portable gaming systems to talk about that are looking up for the future of portable gaming. But there's a reason why that I was kind of spurned on by that one, and that's because I've had a daily driver, which has been one of my gaming systems. I've had my standard 11-inch iPad Pro, which is my daily driver, which is what on all the actual locations that we go to and everything we do, I drive chat and everything off of that system, which is great. It's fantastic, right? And it's I think it's a 3rd generation, so I think it's the Bionic 12, I think it is, not the 12X. But I splurged. Yes, I did. The 12.9 iPad has arrived, and this one's got the XDR display. Doesn't have the 16 gigabytes of memory. It's only got the 8, but it's actually exactly what I needed it for, because as we do more HDR content and as we do more stuff on the road, I found that the 11-inch just wasn't really, cutting it, and I wanted to go to the 12.9 and give this one off to my wife, so she has a different tablet, which, by the way, that thing is fantastic. But there's a couple of things on this that I'm going to be checking out over time, which is some people complain that with the new micro LED backlit screen that there's a lot of light bleed. That's one of the things. And they also complain about the nits of brightness being only accessible during some types of content, which is when it recognizes HDR content. So I'm going to go through and see when this thing actually discovers HDR content, because like a television, like my TV, it won't go to max brightness unless it sees like Dolby Vision or HDR content, and you get that little box that comes up and says, oh,
yep.
And then you get max brightness. So I assume it's very much similar, but it's in the process of building itself up again. So when that's done, the party will begin, I guess.
The party will ensue.
And here's the other thing, I'm a little annoyed because as we're going to talk about, portable gaming systems, xCloud. Right? I mean, this is a primary system for xClouding. It's got the M1 processor, which is, we could talk about what the developer conference in June 6th is going to bring on, which Apple, I assume, is going to launch desktop, class applications on the iPad. And if they don't, well, then the M1 processor's a waste, and maybe I'll put this thing for sale on eBay, but who knows, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey. So with that said, what would you like to do, sir?
Yeah, let's talk about the launchpad stuff.
Okay. So should we?
Yeah.
So we're gonna roll this footage, right? And this one we're just gonna roll. This is like a group topic. We're gonna have a couple of group topics today where we're not gonna like almost introduce most of the topics to really talk about as we would individually, because these are really just discussion worthy topics. Okay. And this one I'm just gonna roll the footage and you guys can see what we're looking at here, because this is, as Corey has corrected me, it's 39B. This is the water suppression system at the launch pad.
Mm-hmm.
Which is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So now,
So cool.
how many, are we sure about how many gallons of water this is?
I have that. Let's see. So the sound suppression system on these pads, it's for the space shuttle, and basically, it says the water stored in 290-foot high, 300,000 gallon tanks northeast of the pad. Their flow rate, though, their peak flow rate is 900,000 gallons per minute.
Wow.
So, they can throw out some water.
And I mean, and so here's the thing. Obviously, when you're throwing a lot of heat out of solid rocket boosters, like in the shuttle days, and when you're actually using a rocket that is propelling very hot gases out the back of it, you want to keep your concrete and your superstructures cool enough to survive that type of thermal blasting, number one. Also the thermal shock. But number two, the other big purpose that these things have is for noise suppression. So water naturally acts as a baffle system to reduce some of the noise in basically these environments. And it's phenomenal when you see an actual shuttle launch or something else. That big pile of steam that comes up at the end is basically just that. It's the remnants of all that water burning off after they dump it into the system. But it kind of spurned another conversation between us, which is what basically would constitute a survivable distance at a launch, right? Because that much water is doing an awful lot of work to suppress noise levels. Right?
Yeah, quite a bit. Actually, on the there's another link we have down below the video link down there, but it also it's a link to the NASA's website that kind of shows exactly about the sound suppression system.
Right.
And you'll see in there it talks about the system designed for when the shuttle was launched. There, it reduces the acoustic decibels down to 142 decibels, which is below the 145 decibel threshold for the payload compartment of the shuttle.
Wow.
The old shuttle, of course, is not there anymore, but you know what I mean. So, and that literally brought us to the next thing, which we'll get to in a minute, of course, is decibels, and we'll talk about that in a second, of course. But 142 is still really loud. but
Very.
it's enough to bring it down to where the actual energy in the sound itself, the acoustic sound, is low enough to not damage the payload.
So now
Okay.
the other part of it is that you did some number crunching before this, where you actually went out. And now here's the other thing: it's very hard to find information on this. We thought we'd find like a classic scientific document where you could read and some sort of guidelines. But then again, I guess so few people have access to full blown rocket launches that it really doesn't make a difference. Whoever decides how close you can or can't be to a rocket launch is decided by the launching authority. And I believe NASA is somewhere between 4 miles to 4.5 miles is the safe visitor distance. I think is what they use at some levels. But Corey, you found some numbers on the actual decibels of what would do human interior damage and what would now internal damage. I think it was what, 210.
Actually, yeah. So some of the other stuff I found here was actually just put it just a few minutes ago down below as well, in a link below. But it's actually not on a rocket related website, but the American Speech and Language Association. So it literally has to do with hearing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about dangerous or noise, safe or dangerous noise levels. And basically, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. But the top of their chart, it says painful impulse noise. So basically, impulse meaning noise that is of this decibel magnitude, but only for a short amount of time. And basically, it says the painful impulse noise not safe for any period of time, 150 decibels, 140 decibels. So, if you've ever been around people that are shooting firearms, and you will understand a few things. First off, they're loud, of course.
Of course.
But you'll understand also that it depends how your perception of how loud it is depends on kind of where you stand in relation to the firearm going off, of course.
Right.
And all this will go into play a bit when we talk a bit more about the launch itself and where you would maybe stand and not stand. But nevertheless, here it says 150 decibels for fireworks at 3 feet, shotguns, firecrackers, real close, and then 140 decibels for the average firearm. Because as we would look at all of these numbers and all of these things we talk about for rocket launches, we understand that not every launch is the same.
Right.
Not every weather state of the launch is the same. The
amount of
density
fuel,
of the air,
thrust,
the distance, and where you stand, and how much mass the payload, or how much mass is being lifted off. Thus, how much throttle up the engines, or they're solid fuel boosters, or are they liquid fuel? There's a whole bunch of.
There's so many variables, right?
But this is all basic, so we just wanted to kind of give you an idea. So what you can see right here, the top of this level is 140, 150, not safe for any really period. And you just heard me reference the thing on NASA's website that the water suppression system for many of the shuttle launches only brought it down below 145, which was not even particularly for the passengers, but for the design requirement for the payload, because it's a little bit further down than the crew compartment.
So I have an interesting thing though.
It's loud, obviously.
That is really strange. Okay, so when I used to be out on the tarmac pre-flighting aircraft, right, at airports like Denver and Chicago, and then I'd have my Apple Watch on. My Apple Watch actually has a decibel meter built into it. Matter of fact, there's a video that we did on the Rolex where I actually pointed to it in one part of the video where I think I was registering over 109 to 114 decibels of cars passing by, and we were roughly, I don't know, 20 yards from the cars, maybe, if that, maybe something, right?
Maybe
less than that. And it's interesting to me that with this particular stuff, so if you're saying, now, I think one of the other things that you found that said the shuttle was 215 decibels and the Saturn V was 220 decibels, right?
Yeah, I've lost that link, but yeah, I was talking to Mike about that just before the show, and yeah, I think it was 215 decibels was about the sound of the launch of the space shuttle, stacked, of course, the full stack.
Right.
But then, the Atlas V, back when Apollo was going up, that was 220, I think it said.
So the water suppression system, to me, then it seems like, if I'm going to do my math right correctly here, so let me just dot some numbers down, because if they get it to 145, right? So they get it to 145 about. So when they say that it was. So they're saying that roughly it reduces the decibel levels by 65 decibels, basically, on the actual initial thrust of the rocket per shuttle launch, right? Yeah. So now here's the other thing that's really interesting. What people don't also understand is that's only for the initial firing of the engines. Once this rocket gets a quarter of a mile to 3/4 of a mile to a mile in the atmosphere, it's full decibels. It's you don't get any more noise suppression anymore. That's why you get the initial one is about 220, but then you're at full decibels for a rocket launch, which is why you can still hear these things solidly 15
Hmm.
miles away, like loudly on most days.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, obviously, as Mike's getting, yeah, they're taking off and they're no longer near where the suppression is. But also, we talked about where you are standing. In this case, obviously, with the firearms.
mm.
But if you're related to rockets, we're stationary and the rocket's moving. And but as the rocket climbs away from Earth, obviously we're getting um, in a way further behind, depending where the rocket's going, in its trajectory. But you're in a way moving to the behind the rocket, where when you started you were just to the side of it, quite far, but still. So yeah, as they climb, depending on a lot of things still again, but yeah, you can hear them because it's not being baffled at all by any
Anything at all. No,
system
the atmosphere
on the
is just,
surface, because it can
yeah.
be, yeah.
And then it's really funny because you might get some launches that are quite loud because the way that the wind blows the sound, and you might get some launches that are almost silent because all the sound goes back out over the ocean. However, when you do go to the Space Center and you do go on the tour, they do go into the fact that anything that's generally within a mile of the launch site, its life is actually in jeopardy due to the decibel
Yeah.
noises that actually are emitted from an initial pulse from a rocket. And number one, and number two, the reason why that area is all sanctuary for birds and creatures and whatnot is because some of them might actually be deaf, because that, from what I understand, is they set off some sort of pre-launch sonic pulses. My understanding, and this is what I've been told by individuals that work out there, and it could be false, I don't know, I have no way to confirm this. However, my understanding is that they've set off some sort of decibel pulses from the launch pad hours, if not days, before the launch to try to force all the creatures out of that zone that could possibly be injured at a time of launch. I don't know if that's true or not, but I hope they
Mhm.
do, because there's a lot of force coming out of that thing.
Yeah, and kind of going right along with that too. Again, I've lost the link too, but I think what I was reading before was somewhere around 210 decibels. If your body is to withstand that amount of acoustic energy,
Hmm.
um, it's physically hitting you. You're gonna feel it, but apparently, your organs, which are softer tissue, your internal organs, will begin to rupture,
Ooh.
and you'll begin to bleed internally. You'll be If you had no hearing protection, you'd be already deaf by then. But the point is that if you're there's a whole bunch of things that can go wrong if you're close to the launch, right? Obviously, there's a lot of heat.
Sure.
Notwithstanding, if it's a failed launch, unfortunately, that would be obviously really bad. But then just the straight heat, and then of course the acoustic energy, just to name a few things, the closer you would get. So you could. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people kind of brainstorming on the internet. How close could you get? Put those
On
volcanic suits
Reddit.
on that really shield you from heat,
Right.
and walk up close. But then of course, you're getting hit with all the sound, and you just liquefy anyway. So. Um,
You say that
it's
so
it is
casually.
interesting.
You just liquefy,
Yeah,
so
well,
hey.
yeah, your internal organs. But
Of course.
it is kind of cool. The wife and myself, we did get lucky enough to go on one of the last tours to Launchpad 39A
Hmm.
before SpaceX rebuilt the thing. And we got to go into the flame trench, and that's, again, if you've seen shuttle launches, the rocket's standing on a stand, but it's elevated above ground level, and it's on this launch stand, and below it is this. Well, you just saw it in the water deluge system.
Right.
But below that is an angled trench that kind of angles the blast out and away. And we were lucky enough to go in there and look around, and it's pretty cool, man. I mean, you just standing there, the amount of energy must have been going through this trench. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah.
That's the only thing I ever got to do was before they took down that launch pad. I actually took the bus tour, and the bus tour gets you to the point where you can step out, but you don't actually go into the garage, the
Yeah.
metal structure or anything, and you didn't go into the flame trench, but you got close enough to see it in real life, and you realize that flame trench is big. It's not.
It is
It's
big. It's
really
very
big.
tall.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a lot more massive, and try to to acoustically push all that sound in one direction, because my understanding is it also did that very, very well. And you would see that additional thrust immediately after the thrusters went off on the shuttle, and any launch at that matter, how it would automatically deflect and go out to the side rather than other directions. So
Yeah, I'll see. I know I have those pictures. I'll see if they have anything in there that we wouldn't want to show.
okay, well we'll
And
revisit.
yeah,
We
exactly.
can
It's
revisit.
cool. Yeah, there's cool
Hey,
pictures.
folks, and remember, if you get a chance, like, subscribe, and follow. This is just, again, today we were really just in a discussion, because when I saw that video and I saw the amount of water, and I was just absolutely blown away. And I said, "Man, why haven't I not seen this before?" And I thought it was just amazing. And then we were both sitting here puzzled, going, "How close can you actually be?" And
Yeah, we knew about it, but yeah, so like, how close can you really be?
yes,
Like,
from what I understand, nobody's ever been closer than 3 miles. That's my understanding. 3 miles. Now, if you've been closer, good luck, because they say you probably. And then, as Corey mentioned, if something went wrong, you probably wouldn't be standing there anymore.
yeah, if it lifts off, any amount below 1,000 feet and it goes boom, well,
You're done.
yeah, you'll be burned by heat. I mean, and there's other things too that we didn't mention even yet. There's a lot of toxic chemicals on board,
Hmm.
depending if it's what type of propellant it is. Um, yeah, there's a lot of things that can go wrong for a bystander.
And there was one more article I think we linked in there that we didn't really touch in, but it was also from Popular Science, and it's how the noise of big rockets break apart buildings, and that's also worthy of a read if you're really interested into it. That one I have not read yet, so I don't know everything that's contained in it, so I'm not going to speak as to what could or couldn't be in there, but it's some of the things that we've just found in discussion before we went on live. So hey, if you get a chance, check out the links below and let us know what
Yeah.
you think in the comments below. If you have any prior information to something like this, or if you have a good physics equation to back up everything that we just said, uh, or if you have a paper, that would be even better. Leave it in the comments below. We'd love to hear more about the subject. It'd be, I think, fantastic.
Yeah,
So
I'll have to find those pictures and get back to you guys. I know
hey,
I
no
got them
problem.
somewhere.
All right, so the next one that we're really going to be talking about here is has been passed on by a buddy of mine. And look, I'm just going to preface it like this. A lot of people don't know is episode before aviation, I was also involved in IT, and before that, 3D computer animation. I have a degree in 3D computer animation, and I follow a lot of the stuff that happens inside of the technology world. But this link was passed on, and being big gamers, and to the point of trying to understand what it means for a new Unreal Engine. Okay. Well, we're not going to play the whole video because you can't, because it's long. It's
Yeah,
very lengthy.
yeah.
However, what we can do is just give you a brief glimpse of what they really show you inside of the world of what the new Unreal Engine is going to be like, because it's actually phenomenal. Okay. They go through the explanation of how they basically created this in game engine editing tool that incorporates so many new things into the fold of 3D gaming and 3D database engineering and hierarchy. Let me get straight to the point here, where this is actual in-game footage out of Series X, which looks.
Oh yeah, in engine. Yeah.
This is by far what people I think have always been looking at for the photorealistic gaming engine experience. However, they've taken it one step further, which is they've created such a hierarchy system that whenever you create something in 3D, it used to be that you also had to turn around, as we got an advertisement in there, you also had to turn around and create what's called levels of detail. And levels of detail modeling, basically, you would actually go in and have to create a step down version of something like a human being. You'd have to have the high level of detail, which was up close, the low level, then the medium. So this game engine does it for you. It also has drop in, drop out artifacts, meaning, as they're showing here, you can literally just take different things and place them in the world as necessary, and then literally rebuild the world on the fly while you're looking at it in a pre-rendered condition. Which, let's face it, that's next level stuff, right? And especially for next level systems. What I want to see is how they implement this, right? So, what games could come to mind, Corey, for yourself and me that you would think would be ideal for a graphic update, right? Because I'm trying to think, because Battlefront 2 was pretty good looking, but the
Yeah.
Battlefield wasn't, and that was based off of Frostbite, right? But I'm trying to think of
Yes. Yep.
yeah. So, and I'm trying to think of what games would really benefit from this massive world building structures that they've also implemented here as well. So,
I'm thinking all those open world MMOs that people wanna go to, and I'm not so much like WoWs, like World of Warcraft, but I'm thinking more like an updated version of Skyrim
mm,
or The Witcher, the Witcher series, something like that that is just open world and really would benefit from really far depth of field, or not depth of field, but depth of render
mm-hmm,
with amazing detail that doesn't really take a huge hit on the what it's running on. And people there, I think there was a Tomb Raider demo. I don't know if it was this engine or not, but there's a Tomb Raider demo that wasn't too long ago, and it looked amazing. But I think, just what Mike's kind of getting at, and I don't have as much experience in building games. I did some rendering and things in the past, but nothing like he did. But certainly can see how, if you're interested in this kind of thing, taking a look at this particular video we have posted down there, I think there's 2 links down there, but
Hmm.
really would help you see how the developers themselves could really benefit from this product workflow. The fact that multiple developers can be working on the same scene with maybe different elements in that scene all at once, and there's no crosstalk, and you don't have problems with when you bring it all together again and
Right.
everything. And it looks like it'll be obviously visually very good, but also possibly reduce the time we got to wait for these things, right?
Right. Well, it's the
Which
other
is
thing
always
is
good.
that they've done an amazing piece of work at is the sorting engine and trying to figure out what exactly constitutes what needs to be rendered in a scene and what doesn't, and how smart it's actually gotten, right? And which in and of itself is an amazing process, just to have basically almost an AI level, I would thinking logic to the game rendering engine, right? Because
Mhm,
before this has all been done in game engine, but at the behest of a lot of programming, not as a plug and play tool that you could
mhm.
basically use for the future, right? And
Yeah.
and I'm trying to think like, and it brings me up to one other thing, flight simulator, right?
Oh my, yeah,
Flight
geez.
Simulator, they touted the fact that when it was going to go to a new developer, it was going to come out that the graphics were going to be fantastic, it was going to be beyond anything we've ever seen. And then I think it underdelivered. Well, it was better for a Flight Simulator. It's definitely one of those things that it could be possibly better if you used it in, say, an Unreal environment. But as we look at the
Mhm,
level of detail that they're talking about here when they're loading these cells and how massive you can make structures, you're right. The
mhm.
MMOs could definitely benefit. James had a comment in there. The new Mass Effect game, I think, is supposed to be working on. Hey, I guess Mass Effect is one of them, right? Um,
Would you say in James that that's one they would fit it well, or the one that they actually are working on with this engine?
hmm, good
Because
point.
I mean, both of those are great options.
Now
Um,
another thing that they're showing here in this video is they're showing drop and drag object placement, which is amazing. But it's also, if you're a 3D modeler, I'd be a little concerned. My job might be
yeah,
in
because
jeopardy.
you got a bunch of canned models.
Yes.
And if you watch the video through the whole way, you'll see that Unreal, the people that are doing it, are talking about how you have access as a dev. You're going to have access to a giant library of things that are like you see in the video are
Hmm.
already in there. Um, so yeah, exactly. If you were a 3D modeler, is now your job not to work for Unreal, but now to go wherever they're building the library, whatever business has the library, that's where you go work.
Right.
Like, I need to work for those people because
They got it.
that's where the models will come from. I don't know.
And what they're showing on screen right now is how, when you're in the environment, how it determines what needs to be rendered. And basically what it does is things that are behind you or don't need to be rendered, it drops out of its content drawer of actually
Mhm.
having to deal with. And then it goes in specifically here into what's called these data layers. So once you put these objects in the world, you can assign them the attributes that they basically need for when do they render, what's their collision objective, what's their response after collisions. If
Mhm.
you pull out this particular weapon and hit it, what's the response from the actual object? That's all going to be embedded in game. Now, my buddy, and I'm not going to take credit for this conversation because this is something that I didn't think about, because this is obviously from the team that brings you Fortnite. This is Epic. This is Unreal. These are the people that have been working on this type of stuff forever. But there's a battle in the world of game engines right now, because Epic and Fortnite are in a locked in battle with the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
content providers and phone providers for having their own embedded stores in their games, which means, will we see these on the mobile platforms, say, of your handheld gaming systems? I don't know, especially your iPhones and your Androids, because those are still things that are going to be, I guess, discussed in the future of how they're going to be resolved, right?
Yeah, I mean, geez, can you imagine, like, if you, now that if you get somewhere that has a high-speed internet connection, we're talking like really high speed, and there's a lot of services out there now, like cloud gaming, right?
Hmm.
There's multiple services that are cloud gaming, with varying degrees of success. But my point, where I'm going with this is, can you imagine something built with this that you don't need the hardware local to run it?
Oh wow,
You
yeah.
could just have your controller that Bluetooth to whatever device, which we'll get to, right? We're getting to handhelds later, but it's all there, that could literally run this all off-site. the number crunch off site. And I know there's some problems with delay and lag. I get that, but
Sure.
just what I'm saying though is just amazing. Can you imagine? You could literally, like you said, put your phone on your desk, prop it up, Bluetooth your controller to your phone, and you're playing this game on your phone. I
Sure.
mean,
Well, look, there's no doubt this device right here, and this is the one, the 12.9, the new iPad Pro the M1, right? They're saying that this is Apple's first shot at truly putting together not only an iPad that can be truly for content creators, but also the fact that it's got a 120 hertz refresh display with HDR qualities, and it's their first really good shot at having their own mobile gaming platform. And one of the other things that we're going to see at DevCon for them in the not too distant future, I think it's coming June 6th, is that they're going to go into heavy into pushing Apple Arcade on both their 4K set-top box and this to join in the fray of what is becoming the ever-evolving gaming community, which, like Corey
yeah.
said, look, games are evolving so rapidly at this point that mobile platforms have become almost dominant. And where you wouldn't think that a premium game could be free today,
Yeah.
premium games are free today because the game starts out as free but becomes more premium with the content that the developers can continue to put into because of the massive amount of players playing and the dollar value that they're getting out of that. So this is really huge for the Unreal crew to produce such a sophisticated engine at a time when, like you said, mobile gaming is so hot. So
Mm-hmm.
going to be interesting to
Make
see
it
what they
easy for
do.
the devs, and make it easy for the devs to work it all. And if you watch the whole thing through, you'll see that they're actually, if you're interested in if you're a dev and you're looking at trying some of these dev tools out, there's a preview developer build that you can get. Just follow the link down there, and you can watch the video and get the scoop. But supposedly they said that the full release of the Unreal Engine 5 for devs will be out early 2022. So,
early 2022, which would be pretty cool.
yeah.
Now, buddy of mine also clued me in on the fact that most games that are in development right now, some have actually gone back into development as this tool became available because they've gotten pre-issued versions of it, and that some of these games are actually going to go back into development because they want to use it. Now, if there was ever a game or a game genre that I would love to see updated, look, I'm big into iRacing. I love iRacing. Have a lot of fun. I've got my simulator. You've seen the video of the old version. There's not even a video of the new version of the simulator on the channel. However, because it's been updated with triple 32 AOC curved monitors, an i9 processor, I'd love to have a 3090, but you can't get your hands on one. However, that said, I would love to see someone make a racing game that has the articulation of a simulation-based racing environment like iRacing, but with the eye candy of an Unreal 5 engine. That would be phenomenal to me. That would be another one that I would look at. So
that'd be amazing. And I did also find too, while Mike was just talking about that, I found some info that says Epic is making it so if you are developing your game in Unreal Engine 4, there's a way you can migrate all of the whole workflow to Unreal Engine 5 when it becomes available with minimal problems. So they're already thinking about exactly what you were talking about, how backwards compatibility for development, in the sense that the new thing's out, but you can make your game in dev, because games, and again, if you're not aware, a lot of games take a long time to make.
Oh yeah.
So multiple years. So the fact that they're making it as easy as possible, I think, with for the devs.
Now I'm going to throw a complete blindside part to this conversation is when it comes to things like air taxi development and so on and so forth. I'm wondering at some point if they could use something like the Unreal Engine to work on their AI learning logic for flying devices that are going to enter into service into the air taxi environment. And if they can use some of this as programmable devices, saying that basically, hey, we're going to test our AI learning logic in a map that we created of basically like San Francisco and see if it can handle that environment. And I'm wondering if these tools are really bordering on that cross communication and cross platform ability to have real world application in, say, like the air taxi market, or even just general aviation for that matter. Because I know we're close. I know we're real close, because on some games, like you can tie in your ForeFlight, or you can tie in your basic EFB or your flight bag device into your simulator at home, and basically have it give you a 1-for-1 in relationship to where you are in the world. So I'm wondering how close we are with that with the Sun engine.
Yeah, the integration of, as I said, integration of ForeFlight into Microsoft Flight Sim or any of those flight sims is really cool and adds to immersion and also a good training aid too. Obviously,
Right.
if you're using that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I hadn't thought of that until you just were talking about it.
I popped into my head. Just
That I'm wondering. I'm wondering if the level of fidelity that Unreal Engine is demonstrating here is really what would be required to get the data they would need out of an air taxi, like say automated collision avoidance and terrain
I don't
following and
know.
whatnot. But I mean, but I mean, yeah, it could totally be a thing.
It
I
could be.
imagine.
I mean, it just popped in my head because look, as and we're getting to that point, and we're going to start talking about the other topic, which is also these mobile gaming platforms. Whereas, look, you have as much mobile computing power today in your hand in a tablet form that you wanted 15 years ago. You know, when these tablets and everything else came out, they were always slightly muted. They couldn't do things that people could do on a regular basis. And now, just like I said, you got a mobile class processor, excuse me, not a mobile. You have
Yep.
a desktop class processor in a mobile platform. And then, you know, if you look at what Microsoft has been doing with their Surface line, they've been including Intel processors in that for a long time. So as these markets all start to converge, I'm starting to see that image of maybe that one computing piece that basically goes with you when you're on the road. And then you take it, drop it in at home, and it powers your game system, you know, and it powers
Yep.
your
Yep.
triple screens, and it does all the workload of everything you've ever wanted. Interesting thought, though. And I guess we could just say, hey, like, subscribe, follow, and if you have any comments, leave them below. We'd love to hear the discussion from you guys.
Yep.
And the next part would be the one that you found, which is you want to talk about this, the possible next gen system that which one you want to talk about? Nintendo?
I'll bring up Nintendo's. If you could bring up the next one if
Yeah,
you want.
sure. Go ahead. So you
Yeah.
can go ahead
So both
and
of these next two topics are kind of related. Um, the first comes from indirectly from a Bloomberg article, but basically it's talking about the new Nintendo Switch.
mm-hmm.
And there's been some rumors going around for a while. If you're into Nintendo Switch and you kind of follow the rumors, you know there's been a Nintendo Switch Pro kind of hinted at for a while, and then there was this rumor of the 4K one as well. But it looks like we're getting a little more traction, and to see that there looks like there may be a possible imminent announcement that maybe something in the fall will be coming. So finally something actually to look at. So basically, it's talking about Nintendo Switch Pro. Well, they're not called the Pro; they're called just the 4K,
Mm-hmm.
and that it could be here as early as possibly September. There was a tweet from somebody who works at Nintendo Magazine,
Right.
Nintendo World Report, and she was commenting. I'm not sure how she's got the info, but somebody tagged her and asked her, "Is the new hardware the same as the Bloomberg reported on, or something entirely different?" Basically asking, was when Bloomberg reported the Nintendo Switch 4K coming in the fall, hey, is this legit? And she says, yes, the Bloomberg article is accurate. It's going to have supposedly a new screen, upgraded chipset, and looking for a September, October. So, early fall kind of release. And also said the announcement again is imminent. So that's pretty cool. It's a bit, for me, it's like, we're not quite into summer yet, but that's not too far away.
Right.
There was some other news in here that said that the initial builds of the product was going to be shipping out to testers and whatnot in July. So
that would sound about right.
That's not too far away. Yeah, that's not too far away, and that would maybe make some sense. So that sounds really cool. I'm just a little bit curious. We'll see. Price. It was speculated that this Pro model, not the 4K, but the Pro model will be somewhere in the range of like 350. So I guess my next question there to obviously Mike and then everybody watching on the channel, right? Are you interested in a 4K Switch?
Yes,
I am, right?
Yeah.
How cool to be to see Zelda in 4K.
Yeah. Well,
the upcoming news, the Breath of the Wild 2 in 4K, obviously amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Going along with that, kind of we talk about these flagship games, and I'll go. Yep, Zelda's right in there. Okay, the new Zelda will be out. If you want to see it in 4K, gotta buy the new Switch.
Sure.
So basically, you're looking at a $400 investment for the game and the Switch. So, all my Zelda fans are gonna be like, yeah, $400, whatever, we'll pay it. But, Mike, what do you think of the price, the news? What are you thinking?
Look,
because we don't know anything about the speed. Yeah, we just know it's supposedly 4K. So
for me, me, I'm a tech junkie, right? Now my wife plays the Nintendo Switch. That's her gaming platform. She loves it, enjoys it. There's a couple games on there that we've played together, but I I've backtracked away from consoles over the last year and a half, although I still have my Xbox Series X, and now I'm mostly mainly on the PC. But I'm always looking for a mobile gaming platform, right? Because the time that I have now in family time and everything else, the time that I have for gaming, which is one of my passions on the side, I don't get it all the time. So for me, having a mobile platform where if I'm doing something else away from somewhere and I do have the opportunity to grab something, a 4K system is what I would want because I hate the muted graphics that you get on lesser powerful systems, right? Let's just face it.
Yep.
And this dovetails directly into, because I might as well just dump this on top of the fireplace, because Valve is also thinking about doing the same thing, and they're looking at a Switch-like portable gaming PC. This has been previously codenamed as the Neptune, okay, and they're looking at possibly calling the Steam Pal, right? Now, and if it has anything of the same guts and the ability for people to have a better online, or excuse me, on the go gaming experience, you also have to take a look at the fact that the marketplace that you can get, say, an i5 condensed, Switch style Intel gaming system on the go right now. I know Linus on his channel does reviews on them all the time. It's a hot market. So 4K gaming. Now, though I'm not a big Zelda fan, what games in any universe would I love to play 4K on the go? PUBG.
Metroid.
Okay, Metroid is another one, but Circuit Stars, Circuit Superstars. I would love to play that. I would love to be able to be on the road anywhere and play that game. Okay, with a controller. I would still go into the fact that there's so many other titles out there that could be played on the road. Any Rainbow Six game, if I could play it on the road, done. MLB The Show. Now that I finally got a taste for it, if you could say that, hey, if you could tell me that I'd be able to play MLB The Show on this thing anywhere I go, it's a done deal. I wouldn't even think about it, right? So, like, besides Metroid and the Zelda games, what other ones would you see that in the Switch arena? Because look, let's just say this much: if Valve has their own portable gaming system, right, and if we're in that arena, think of the Steam games we could play on the road, man. You could play Astroneer. You could play Deep Rock. You could play anything.
No, I know, it's crazy.
You could play Squadrons. So cool. You could. What else could you know?
Well, I mean, Steam, honestly, and not to get back to the way the world is, but online gaming has just had a huge bump in the past year and a half, and Steam. I mean, when I see a new article about a game coming up, I saw one this morning actually. I was like, oh, this game looks cool. Is it on Steam? It's gonna be on Steam. I mean, it's there. Awesome. It integrates with tons of things, and I'm curious if obviously if Steam Pal, they're calling it, if comes to market, I'm sure it's probably going to integrate with their any controllers they have.
Right.
What about Steam VR? I mean, would this be able to run link up to that and run? I would imagine it would be able to do so, and I'm just really curious to see what kind of internals. I did see something too that maybe was a little bit interesting. It said that the possibly the Steam Pal would run on Linux.
That would be interesting.
Something there too.
Not super surprising though, because obviously it's going to unlock whatever potential that they have in the operating system area, that they wouldn't have to be so bogged down with running instructions on just keeping the thing operational, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
which makes sense. That makes sense, because to me, that's a perfectly great move. But look, let's turn around and tell the world. Obviously, recently we've just rediscovered Astroneer. We've been playing it pretty regularly and going into world building and and crafting and so on and so forth, which is a different type of world. The problem is with an experience like something like an Astroneer, I'm just wondering, some PC games don't translate well to small screens. Right. Whereas the Switch already has a library of games that could easily transfer, because let's say that Nintendo has always had their sights on portable gaming, from the Game Boy, from the different variations that they've had. And the Switch was just a natural development of the fact that they said, well, let's take mobile gaming and make it a household experience. And we'll make that a blurred line for Nintendo, as they almost did with the handhelds in the Wii universe. Right.
Yeah, it was always about games on the go. The fact that it had a dock just meant that you could get it and still have a home unit.
Right.
I mean, it was always an on-the-go system. So
So I'm again, and where Nintendo usually goes, people tend to follow down the roads. With the Wii U, when it was so hot to have off-game peripherals, right? Look, Xbox went with Kinects, and it didn't
Yeah.
connect, right? It didn't last. It didn't have the same staying power. Neither did the Wii.
Yeah.
But I
yeah,
think
yeah.
with mobile gaming, and I look, the one player in this entire game though that I think that people are really not paying enough attention to is Apple.
Mm.
They've got the ability to have a world class gaming system, and the thing that they've already got is they've got a capitalized market, okay, in their quote unquote walled gardens. So if Apple turns around, like I said, opens up the true power of these M1 class devices or their 4K TV,
Mhm.
mobile gaming is going to change again, especially at the iPad level. So who knows?
Yep.
So much
Yeah,
to
and
talk about.
I'm interested to see also what happens with the, and not that I want to get too bogged down with the Epic versus my Apple lawsuit, but that kind of goes right along with whatever Apple might do in the gaming
Oh,
space.
sure.
How the royalties go along with that too, but that just needs to be seen as well. Yeah.
Sure. But it's interesting to see. Now, the other thing, lastly, in this discussion, I think that needs to take place is what is the world shortage of silicon and chips going to do for all of this? Because let's face it,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
difficult to get your hands on some types of computing devices, let alone the chipsets that you need to run your cars. So I'm wondering how
I
that's going to
I
affect things.
just saw something this morning. I'll try to see if I can find it again.
About
Semiconductor shortages again.
still, of course. I mean, it's happening. It's a real thing. But
No, I know. I thought I saw somebody else was shutting down temporarily for
oh
that. I
god,
can't find it. But anyway, yeah.
really
Yeah.
interesting. Well, I guess we have to see the difference
Yep.
of what's going to happen in the different gaming platforms, how that's going to develop. It's interesting to see that Valve has literally. You would have thought this would have been sooner from Valve, like to get into the mobile gaming platform, and it's interesting to me to see that that's where they are today. I don't see Valve being able to really have as strong of a market right now if they don't get into mobile gaming. I think it would be a bad move for them if they didn't.
Yeah. I just wonder, being a PC gamer and a console gamer,
Mhm.
knowing how I use Steam, obviously on the PC, right?
Mhm.
I'm trying to imagine someone who the market of person who would want to play Steam games but maybe doesn't use Steam now, right? We're talking somebody like a new user, right?
Okay.
If
Good
the Steam Pal
conversation,
came out,
right?
um is it something that, well, I guess there's two questions here. Is it something that the new user would be as attracted to as like a Nintendo where they know the name?
Mhm.
Or how about yourself and myself? And you kind of alluded to it a little bit now earlier. Like we both use Steam on a PC.
Mhm.
Um, there obviously are games that would migrate well to a mobile version of Steam on a
Mhm.
handheld, but some games that obviously would not. So I'm just wondering, because I mean, the sense that obviously Steam has so many different categories of
Right.
games, you're not going to get, I just don't feel like I would see the hardcore competitive scene ever really go to a Valve handheld unless it's a PR thing because of
I have a
the
different
issues.
take. I have a
Well, I'm just saying that issues inherent to, like, depending what competitive scene we're talking about,
sure.
but the constant like issues on response time and lag on some types of things.
Understood.
Um,
So let me throw this at you.
but I think, but just like you mentioned earlier with like Astroneer is like perfect because
Yeah.
it's perfect for that. I mean, you can sit anywhere. You can sit on your couch. You can sit in your bed. You can sit anywhere. You can take it on the go.
Sure.
There are tons of games that, yeah, would be great for that. Yeah, actually. Yeah.
So I have three things now to add to that conversation. Number one is trends, right? The trend is that what everybody didn't want to do 15 years ago suddenly becomes an acceptable trend now, which is online game delivery, which people balked at when the Xbox One was going to come
Oh
out.
my, yeah.
The major upheaval that people said wanted disc-based content. They didn't care at all. And look, now we're 7, 8
Digital
years.
rights.
Yeah, we're 7 or 8 years down the road, and nobody really cares if you have a disc anymore, right? So that's one of those trends. So when you look at those trends, just to say what you were going into your discussion about, would people really care about latency issues if everyone is still playing on the same system, okay? And mobile gaming, like a mobile PUBG or a mobile Fortnite champion style based thing that came into this, would be different. Number one. Number two is variety. Steam's
Oh yeah.
overall,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
right. So
totally.
Steam has so much variety in their pipeline already. So if you look at things like simple rockets, which would be perfect for a mobile gaming platform, if you look at things
Tons of
like
stuff there.
Kerbal, if you look at all the different style of games like Human Fall Flat and so on and so forth that are catered towards smaller screens that Valve would have an instant tap into, man,
Mhm.
then this becomes such a valuable proposition for Valve.
Oh
It's
yeah.
undeniable. Okay. And that almost takes a lot away from Switch, because if then I'm sitting on the fence and I'm going, well, do I want a 4K Switch or do I want the Valve PAL? I'm like,
That could literally
mm,
come down to proprietary IP, honestly. Like,
exactly.
do you want to play this to Zelda? Well, guess what? You're getting a Switch. But if you don't care, then you get something
Then
else.
you get
Like
something
if you're
else.
like, I don't care about Zelda, boom, Valve, get the Steam Pal.
That's it. And look, the Switch on a 4K TV looks fantastic. I mean, it looks great. But then again,
Yeah.
I could understand that if you don't have the best TV that actually will upsample to 4K, then it might be different, right? So,
There was some things with Switch it like slower frame rates
mhm,
on when it's docked. But again, that's all things that well, we don't know actually. But I was gonna say that's all things that I'm sure they would probably address with the new whatever they're gonna actually call it, the 4K version.
right,
Because again, from what we can kind of glean from details, from that one tweet, for example, the one editor that's reading about it, it's got a new screen. Okay, fine, of course it does. But then upgraded chips.
right, right. Hey,
Okay.
ooh, World. How about World of Warships on any one of these, right? On a small screen basis. That, because World of
Yeah,
Warships.
because it's not necessarily a fast game,
No.
right? It's not. Yeah. So if you guys don't know already, we both play World of Warships as
Yep.
well. If you again, not as mainstream a game, but still quite fun on the I was a high seas kind of World War II battleship surface ship simulator.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you think of the maybe more popular game, World of Tanks. You got any World of Tanks players out
There
there?
you go.
What would you say? And I'm not talking again. Probably, I don't know. We'll see. But the main like hardcore competitive guys, World of Tanks, or the casual World of Tanks players. Anybody out there for World of Tanks? And what would you say if you could play World of Tanks on something the size or maybe slightly bigger than a Switch that was integrated with Steam, or maybe not? Maybe not. I mean, just what do you think about that? So
Don't
yeah.
know. Hey, I tell you, there's so much out there, and as I look at the 12.9er again, because my mind runs with fancy about waiting to see if they're really going to unlock that processor with the arcade development side of things. And the
Mhm.
last one, this is the last thing to be said on this, xCloud. xCloud has to make it. If xCloud
Mhm.
doesn't make it, a lot of people have popped their head up into the environment of, offline slash online gaming, where you're basically getting a console style experience, but you're doing it on a tablet because you're gaming remotely from the cloud. Okay. If xCloud doesn't make it, you've got a bigger problem on your hands. And that's the other competitor in this whole thing. But heck, we are out of time. Like Back to the Future. So out of time.
Yep, I can't see the song because I don't want to risk
Oh,
it.
there you go. Yeah, we'd be in trouble. But hey, folks, it is good to be back at this time frame and the time slot. But it's great to get a full show in, and maybe we could do it again next week. So we'll see what's going on there.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see how that whole thing plays out. But I'm done. And hey, leave us your thoughts in the comments below. It's always great to hear from you guys. Comments
Yes.
drive videos. When there's more comments on a video, I've seen that it does much, much better. So help us out, help the channel out. And if you're part of the ones that do actually watch these episodes post after we put them out there in the real world, let us know what you think below, because that would really help us out. So I'm done for the day. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how we might be able to get these flame trench pictures to you guys.
Oh, yeah, well, do it in an episode. We can talk about it.
Because it's cool.
It is cool.
The amount of hell and brimstone that must have been going through this trench, as you can see, is crazy. Honestly, it's
Fire?
impressive.
Are you talking about fire and brimstone or hell and brimstone?
Well, I guess if you were there, you wouldn't care what
It
it
would
was
probably
called.
just be a bad day anyhow.
Yeah, you wouldn't have any time to think about it.
Name a place that you would not want to be a fly on the wall. That would be it. The flame
mean,
trench.
It's like one of those things, like, if you gotta go, maybe it's not so bad because it ain't gonna last very long, let me tell you.
Okay, we got way too morbid.
Yeah. Yeah, we're way off topic there. Little
Hey, folks.
philosophical.
Yeah, right. Like, subscribe, follow. We appreciate everything that you guys have been doing for us. And if you get a chance, just drop us some lines in the discussion below. Thank you so much for participating. James, good seeing you. And we'll talk to you guys real soon.
Take it easy, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Later. Thank you. Oh, we got to say thank you to Harris Heller. And I've still got to get that new song in here. He's got new stuff. So, hey, folks, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Take care. Yo. Bye-bye.